There's a new push to ditch the classic 9 to 5 shift for Victorians who work from home. Employer groups in favour of the move say it would allow parents to make up hours after their children have gone to bed. For more, we're joined live now by human resources expert Jonathon Woolfrey. Jonathon, good to see you. Workers would still complete 8 hours of work. It's just a matter of when. So is there any harm in this arrangement?
Look, what we have at the moment is a system that has quite specific set hours for most employees, depending on what award they're covered by. We know that the work has changed, the way people work, remote work, etc. So there is some flexibility already in awards. However, yes, the scenarios that it was designed for back in the day no longer are as prevalent as they used to be.
Jonathon, in terms of logistics, how would workplaces juggle things like meetings if people had hours which differed to this much of a degree?
It's a good question, and many employers are struggling to come up with a framework that manages and balances all those out. Probably in the changes recommended by industry associations, it's more about the negotiation or the arrangement between the employer and the employee. So they want to put more power in the two parties to come to an agreement together and not be restricted by the agreement. I think that'll differ workplace to workplace and what that looks like, but I think it needs to be at the forefront of both employees and employers to actually figure that out before they put an arrangement in place.
Jonathon, the Community and Public Sector Union doesn't support the idea. They claim it's an attempt to drive down employees' conditions as they'd normally be entitled to overtime at night especially. I take it you can't have it both ways, right? What do you make of that argument?
Yeah, look, there's plenty of ways, and industry associations have often said that penalty rates, particularly a more liberal application of penalty rates, is outdated. But this is often, and what they're talking about is that it's the employee request, and employers actually have no power to enable a worker to work after 8 p.m, for example, in some contexts, even if the employee wants it without paying overtime. Now, the employee doesn't necessarily want overtime, it just suits them. So, look, if we're starting to see workers being forced to work hours they're not comfortable with, those unsociable hours that would traditionally attract penalty rates, absolutely. But what we're talking about here is flexibility for both parties that they don't even want to talk about overtime.
Is there any value in getting workers just back into the office, that old-fashioned thing that was around before COVID?
There's definitely worth that conversation. I know many employers around the country have gone back to mandating 2, 3, 4 days a week in the office because they haven't been able to find a way to get that remote or hybrid work right. I think taking a unilateral solution is a very rough approach. I understand why. But yes, we need to understand what are the important points people need to come into the office for and what does that look like for each organisation, because there is definitely merit in it in the vast majority of cases.
Jonathon Woolfrey, thank you very much for your time. Good to see you.
My pleasure.